It all begins with those who came to be known as the Lost Generation, people born roughly between 1883 and 1900. They grew up in an era of rapid progress, electricity, automobiles, and the first airplanes. The world seemed endlessly full of promise, but everything changed when the First World War began. They went to the front as youths and returned as adults, disillusioned. Their youth ended in the trenches. They witnessed death, chaos, and the futility of heroism. And when the war was over, the old world had collapsed. They felt betrayed, cast out of the world that no longer existed and unable to find their place in the new one. Hence their deep existential crisis, disillusionment, and cynicism. But from this ash was also born a hunger for life. In the 1920s, known as the Jazz Age, they tried to seize the moment, which gave rise to a whirlwind of culture, new dances, art, and literature. The main representatives were writers Ernest Hemingway, Eric Maria Remarque, Scott Fitzgerald, and Gertrude Stein. Their works best capture the sense of loss and the search for new meaning. Notably, the term Lost Generation was popularized by Gertrude Stein and later used by Hemingway as an epigraph to his novel The Sun Also Rises. After the Lost came the Greatest Generation. These were people born between 1901 and 1927. If the Lost doubted, this generation was forced to act. Their childhood and youth coincided with the harsh years of the Great Depression, which taught them resilience and frugality. And immediately after that came the burden of the Second World War. They fought on the front lines and labored on the home front, united by the single goal of victory. Their core values were duty, self-sacrifice, patriotism, and belief in collective action. After the war, they returned home and used that same solidarity to rebuild their countries, restore stable economies, and create the consumer society for their children. One of their key representatives was President John Kennedy, along with millions of unnamed veterans and workers whose efforts built the post-war world. The term the Greatest Generation was solidified after the release of journalist Tom Brokaw's book of the same name, which celebrated their heroism. The Silent Generation consists of people born from 1928 to 1945. They were born at the intersection of eras, just before World War II and immediately after it. They were squeezed between their heroic fathers and the baby boomers. They were shaped by post-war destruction and political tension, such as McCarthyism in the U.S., when a single wrong word could cost someone their career or freedom. Hence their caution, conformity, and loyalty. They didn't stand out, valued a secure job, and were willing to patiently climb the ladder. This was the generation of gradual career growth, not sudden breakthroughs. Despite the name, there were strong voices among them. Civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr., the king of rock and roll Elvis Presley, and filmmaker Woody Allen. They proved that even in a silent generation, there were those who changed the world. After the quiet builders came the dreamers. The baby boomers, those born between 1946 and 1964. The post-war baby boom produced a large and confident generation. They grew up in the relative peace and prosperity built by their parents. But the boomers rebelled against the silence of the previous generation. This was the generation of hippies and rock and roll. Their motto was, "Don't trust anyone over 30. They rejected conformity, protested the Vietnam War, and fought for civil rights. Their creed was optimism, belief in a brighter future, and faith in their own uniqueness. Among their main representatives were the Beatles, Bill Clinton, and Steve Jobs, all of whom embodied the spirit of change and belief in technology. Interestingly, today baby boomers are often criticized by millennials and zoomers, who accuse them of enjoying economic growth while failing to solve, and even worsening, issues like climate change and social inequality. After the idealists came the realists. Generation X, people born roughly between 1965 and 1980. They're often called the latchkey kids, whose parents were busy working. They grew up amid rising divorce rates and economic instability. They were shaped by the Cold War, the fall of the Berlin Wall, and the emergence of personal computers. Gen X are independent, self-reliant, and healthily skeptical of large corporations and empty slogans. They coined the concept of work-life balance, striving to find harmony between career and personal life. Their notable representatives include founder of Amazon Jeff Bezos, founder of Wikipedia Jimmy Wales, and filmmaker Quentin Tarantino. They were pioneers of the digital age, but entered it as adults. The term Generation X was first used by photographer Robert Capa and later popularized by writer Douglas Coupland in his novel of the same name. Next came those who grew up at the turn of the millennium, the Millennials, born between 1981 and 1996. They're the digital pioneers. They remember a world without the internet, yet it became everyday life during their youth. They were raised to believe they were special, destined for bright futures. But when they graduated, they encountered the harsh reality of the 2008 global financial crisis. This gave rise to a generation of disappointed optimists. They seek meaning in work, prefer experiences over possessions, and often delay adulthood due to economic uncertainty and student debt. Among their representatives are founder of Facebook Mark Zuckerberg, writer Joan Rowling, and entrepreneur Elon Musk. Millennials became the driving force behind social media and the gig economy. After the Millennials comes Generation Z, those born between 1997 and 2012. They have never known a world without the internet, smartphones, or social media. They see more social conflicts, climate issues, constant news, and global anxieties, which often makes them seem older than they are. This has made them both pragmatic and anxious. Zoomers value inclusivity, tolerance, and sustainability. They think globally, create content easily, and prefer short-form video. For them, the line between online and offline life is almost non-existent. Generation Z is also the most diverse in history in terms of ethnicity and race, which directly influences their progressive worldview. And finally, the newest chapter, Generation Alpha. Children born after 2010, the youngest and most digital generation. They're growing up in a world where everything is connected. Smartphones, artificial intelligence, and voice assistants are part of everyday life. They don't learn to use technology, they're born with it. For them, a screen isn't a tool, it's an extension of reality. Their childhood consists of Minecraft, YouTube Kids, metaverses, and online schools. They are raised by millennials who strive to give them freedom and mindfulness. Generation Alpha will shape a future we cannot yet imagine. A world where humans and technology merge into one. And that's the story of how humanity evolved, generation after generation, each shaped by its own trials, dreams, and revolutions. If you enjoyed this journey through time, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next.